Yo, what is going on, my beautiful brothers and sisters, fellow radiators of love? My name is Jamal Pope, aka J Phoenix, and this is going to be your weekend astrology forecast for August 5th and 6th of 2023. Thank you so much for joining me in this video. I just went live actually just before making this video, so be sure to check that out. If you just go over to like the live tab, like on YouTube and stuff, I just went live for about 30 or so minutes, just kind of giving you guys an update on different things and just kind of, casual chat and stuff too. So that's something I'm going to be wanting to do a little bit more. So I just went over a couple of different topics, some updates and stuff, things I want to do on the channel going forward, and just having fun and stuff. So, but in any event, let's get to the astrology, shall we? So, guys, we had a pretty interesting week. Wouldn't you say? This was a very interesting week. That moon in Aquarius, that full moon in Aquarius was definitely a different kind of energy. Then that moon went into Pisces, and now it's like, all right, what does the weekend have? Well, we have the moon in Aries. So it's definitely going to be, this weekend's going to definitely feel a little more fun compared to the week itself. We're definitely going to want to be more active and go out and kind of do things and be more social with that moon being here. It's going to, of course, trine over to the sun. It's going to, trine over to, Venus come Sunday. But before it does that, of course, it does make the aspects where it conjuncts Chiron, right? It's going to conjunct Chiron after it trines the sun. So, you start off the day with that moon here at 4 degrees. It's in that first decan, of course, right? So, as we move the day forward, as the day continues, that moon, the first energy that it really kind of comes into contact with, if you will, is going to, of course, make the trine over to Black Moon Lilith, which is retrograde at 9 degrees of Leo. So we do get that energy. I think it's interesting how before the moon moves to the second decan of Scorpio, which is ruled by the sun, and the sun, of course, is exalted in that decan as well. That's where it likes to be the most. We do kind of come up against like this sort of fear, if you will. But it's a trine. So there's going to be a lot of healing that can come from this aspect. This is going to be about, do you really have the courage and bravery to step into your heart and to really express yourself? That's really what this comes down to. This is all about not being afraid if people paint you as the bad guy, not being afraid if people paint you as the enemy, because a lot of times people will kind of would do that to Aries. That happens a lot. Like, look, like we just had Cardi. What was it? It was we just had it was Cardi B, right? That threw the freaking mic, right? That's what it was, right? Because that thing was freaking fantastic, right? Yeah, Cardi B won't face charges after Mike throwing incident. I actually learned this. She is an Aries moon. Like, I want to, hold on, let me see if I can find her, her chart. Because, let me pull this bitch up real fast. Because I'm pretty sure she is an Aries moon. Yeah, she's an Aries moon. Not only that, but her moon and her sun actually oppose each other damn near exact. So she's a full moon baby, right? So, and I just love how she's not actually getting any repercussions for that. Because, shoot, you come up and approach her and throw the water on her, and she's just like, with a quickness, with a snap, like, no, get off. So, yeah, the moon's going to be in Aries. Like, don't be afraid to express yourself. Don't be afraid to be who you are and to step into your truth. That's really what this whole trine with the Black Moon Lilith is going to be. And like I said, it's reversed. So these are like fears that you probably have already gotten over, or they're unfounded. These are apparitions that are they're like boogeymen just kind of hanging out. But then like the closer you get to them, you realize that it's a mirage. You know what I'm saying? So don't fall for the mirage. Don't fall for the hype and all that sort of stuff. This is about, really expressing and being who you are. When the moon comes into Aries, it's definitely a very refreshing energy, especially after coming through Pisces with Saturn retrograde, with the Neptune, with joining the yod between, Neptune and Pluto and Venus, even though it's a lot looser at this point, but joining all of that energy, which has been with that energy since it conjuncted Pluto and now it's finally coming off of it. And there's going to be a bit of like a release and stuff like that, and a refreshing kind of feel to this weekend. Yeah, so you're going to be feeling more fired up, more inspired to take action. But the thing is about, can you take that action and actually sustain something with it? The only thing about Aries too is that it is like that sort of initiation, that initial spark, but actually taking that initial spark and actually like kind of corralling it and holding it so it can actually grow into something that does, become kind of like a kind of like a wildfire, if you will, but just kind of just like, it's a more sustainable fire, a more sustainable energy. That's, what we are looking to do here, right? So there's the fear of like, well, yeah, you may feel inspired to do something or to take some sort of action, but the fear is like, well, like, can this thing be something that's sustainable? Can it become like a day-to-day thing? Even, what I'm saying? Is it something that I can actually integrate into my day-to-day reality, or is it just one of those inspirational moments that just kind of come and go and stuff like that? So, and I think there can be even an addiction to inspiration and an addiction to motivation of just always wanting like the next spark or the next idea, and being addicted to that energy instead of taking the idea and actually sustaining it and giving it more life and allowing it to grow and evolve and stuff. Because let's be real, it's not necessarily fun to do that because you get the idea, but then you have to like ground it in Taurus and things kind of slow down. It's fixed Earth, so it's slow. And then you get to the Gemini, you get the mutable air energy, where it's like now that's when you start thinking about it. It's like, oh, is this going to work? Do I have to do this? Do I have to do that? You start trying to intellectualize everything, and then you get to Cancer and the way that you feel about it. It's usually somewhere within one of these three that the inspiration or motivation dies. It doesn't actually become anything. Because if you can get to the Leo energy and you can really like if you can really put your whole heart into it, then you start to unlock these other realms, these other levels, if you will. But that's kind of how it works. It's like you get the idea, the inspiration, you do your best to put it into practice and actually ground it in something, and then you start to like, okay, well, these are the thoughts that come up about it. These are the feelings that come up about it. Okay, is this really something that aligns with my heart? And then we decide like it does, if it doesn't, and then we kind of continue to move forward. We may go into like the editing mode. Virgos, when we edit things, kind of when we criticize things, kind of break things down and kind of like point out those little things. And then you start to, and then with Libra, you really start to kind of put it out there even a bit more so, right? So, because Leo is also in many ways sort of like a testing ground to see like how it lands with other people, whether it actually connects with other people's hearts. But like I said, the moon is going to be in Aries, so it's going to be, of course, building up to the new moon in Leo that we're going to have. So there's definitely going to be some spark off, some initiation that happens, and that first little test is like whether or not we can get past our own fears about it. Now, of course, as soon as it comes into that second decan, it's going to make the quincunx over to Mercury, which is in Virgo. Said awkward stare from across the room. Now the moon is in the decan ruled by the sun, and Mercury is in the decan ruled by Saturn. So it's like, this conversation is going to be a little bit different than the last conversation that they had, because the last time that the moon talked to Mercury, that the moon called Mercury. Now this is going to be a text message. So it's like the moon's going to be like, hey, Mercury, so I'm thinking about doing this thing, and I'm inspired to take this action and this action and this action. What do you think about it? And then Mercury's going to break it down and like edit things and criticize things and then shoot it back to the moon. And the moon's going to be like, oh, okay. Like that's the moment too where it's like, don't let this quincunx to Mercury, don't let it just like, not that Mercury's just going to be a buzzkill, but it will kind of be a bit of like a buzzkill. It could be like maybe a conversation that you have with someone that is very Saturnian like, that may break down the vision that you have or however you're excited about it, and may break it down and be like, are you sure that's going to work though? Are you sure that dream's going to work? I mean, I don't know about that. What about this? Did you consider that thing? Did you consider this thing? What about that thing? And then it's like, I just want to feel good. I just want to feel inspired. And I have this person hyper analyzing my dream and stuff like that when I'm trying to build. And that's when you have to like kind of like come back and ask yourself, is it coming from a place of love? Is it coming from a place of uh, genuine connection and heart to heart interaction? You have to really ask yourself, is it, and of course you can see where it lands in your chart, but that's going to be really important there within that communication of the king. Like I said, it's going to be a text message. So you may actually receive a text message from someone, and maybe you send someone's like something that you're really excited about or whatever like that, and then they just send you back a K. Like that could also be it can be either like really, really detailed, or it can be like K. And then you start going in your own, it's like, okay, what does K mean? You know what I mean? That's the other part too. So, okay, what does K mean? What, like, did they mean this? Did they mean that thing? I don't know how they actually feel about it. Like, what's going on here, right? So that's going to be happening Saturday, afternoon, going into the evening. By the late Saturday, you're going to have that moon, which is going to come to 13 degrees. That's going to be the degree that it does make the trine over to the sun. The sun now moving past the degree that Venus will station direct at, which is 12 degrees. And as we're heading towards that conjunction of the sun and Venus, which is very important. This is definitely going to be a trining energy where we're going to ask ourselves, 1 + 3, 4, Aquarius energy, vibration. Your vibe attracts your tribe. You know what I'm saying? So this is going to be like, we're going to be asking ourselves, all right, like, where am I vibing right now? Looking at the tribe, am I really expressing myself, my creativity, my passion, my love? Do I have, like, is there soul in my voice? Is there, is there vigor? Is there oomph to what I'm doing here? You know what I'm saying? And then does it match the reality around me? Does it match where I am? And this will be more towards the end of the day. So, you have to ask yourself that. I heard in my head no, but I know exactly what that's responding. I know exactly what that thought is in response to. When I heard, it's like, do you vibe here anymore? And I heard no, but I know exactly what that's talking about. And I've already taken the steps on making a transition and a change in my life, as far as that goes. But even if you come to the realization that it is a no, don't freak out. Don't feel like you have to change everything right now and overnight. Don't feel like you can't have a good time while you're still in this situation. Don't think like if it's like a job and you realize that, okay, maybe I don't fit here anymore. Doesn't mean that you have to quit immediately. Make sure that you're taking care of your shit. You know what I mean? Make sure you have something else lined up and everything. But that doesn't mean that while you're still there that you just completely throw in the towel and that you don't do your work. I mean, still do your job, do it effectively, put your heart into it still. And, you can still have a good time while you were in that situation, even though you may know that it's time to move on and maybe try something different. So that's just one example, right? So we're going to be asking ourselves those different things, right? So, going into Sunday, of course, we're going to see that moon. It's going to be more like in the middle of the night when the moon's going to text Mars. So the moon's going to text Mars in the middle of the night. It's like, hey, so this is the response that Mercury gave me. And like I said, it's either going to be a K or it's almost going to be like, maybe like you send them like this text message, or like the moon sends Mercury this text message about all these different things. It could also be the other way around, where Mercury sends the moon a text message and the moon's just like, yo, I'm just trying to feel myself right now. I'm just trying to be on my thing. I'm feeling myself. I'm just inspired and motivated. But Mercury's gonna be like, yo, but you have all these other things to consider. And the moon's gonna be like, I'll get to that later. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'll think about that later. I'll think about that when I get to Gemini. You know what I'm saying? Like, or I'll start to ground and understand when I get to Taurus, right? Then it's when I get to Mars, right? And Mars is going to be like, well, no, these things are great, but these are the actions that we have to take. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's interesting how we get like, the thoughts, the epiphanies on how we really can kind of morph our reality and like manifest things with Mercury here. And then, of course, we have Mars, which is moving fast right now. It's leading the pack right now. So that moon conjuncting Mars is going to be where it's like, well, there's definitely an energy where we can kind of feel like maybe we can start to get ahead, of these things. 1 plus 6 is 7, so seven, lucky number 7. This is a very spiritual number. It's Pisces, it's Neptunian energy, so it's definitely taking about. It's definitely going to be like, okay, but these actions, this inspiration, it's spiritual in nature. Does it align with your spirit? And that's going to be very important thing that we're going to be asking ourselves. Of course, the main thing of the day on Sunday is that moon conjunct Chiron. It's happening earlier in the day. The sermons that day are definitely going to be pretty interesting, especially now that the North Node is moving to Aries. I don't go to church, not often anyway. Sometimes I'll go to church with my mom and stuff, but the sermons that morning are going to be very interesting. I was to say that. So, but yeah, that moon over Chiron, 19 degrees. First time that we've had the moon conjunct Chiron while the North Node is there. And I'd have to actually look to see when was the last time the moon could have conjuncted Chiron with the North Node also being in Aries, because that's something that we probably haven't experienced in a while too. So I'd have to look back to see when that could have even happened. So maybe I'll actually would do that. See when that could have even happened last. So, because Chiron. Okay, so the last time Chiron was in Aries, it was the reverse. So the South Node was heading towards hold on. So actually no, well, yeah, exactly. So Chiron is there. So so the last time it could have happened was back in 1968, what it looks like. It's the last time that this could have happened. 1967, 1968, it looks like. But it looks like 1968 was the last time that this could have happened. Because I'm going to move this now to days. Because, yeah, the moon, it was all here at these degrees instead. So the moon conjuncted Chiron at 2 degrees. And that's when the North Node was over here. Of course, at that time, you had, you had Uranus and Pluto over here in Virgo. You had Jupiter over here in Virgo, which is where Mercury is going to be during when the moon makes its aspect over to it. So yeah, definitely a much different energy. Of course, you had Neptune over here in Scorpio as well. So this is an energy that we haven't gotten in a while. As far as like when the last time that we could have experienced a moon conjunct Chiron with North Node in Aries, we haven't gotten this in a while. Because even if I went back like I guess say like a year, Chiron was in So and then so more than likely. So no Chiron probably it was retrograde and then it went back forward. Still retrograde, still retrograde, still retrograde, still retrograde, still retrograde. I'm going to change this to like weeks. Okay. So still retrograde. Jeez. Okay. So let's see. Chiron 29. Bam. Okay. So Chiron was there. The moon had already passed it. So yeah, 1968 is looking like when the last time that this could have happened. So yeah, that's the thing about it. You have to look at the layering thing of astrology too, because when you look at the layering aspects of astrology, it's like when was the last time that the moon did this? While this was also in that same house or that same sign, influencing these energies, and then you'll see it's like, wow, we haven't experienced this in like 30 years or 40 years or 50 years or 200 years, right? Like with the whole Venus retrograde in Leo, only in Leo hasn't happened for 200 years. So like that's the things that you got to look at consider when you're looking at these astrological aspects of these transits, because then you will see that, like, it's interesting, like history kind of rhymes It never repeats. It rhymes, but it's interesting too. It's really cool to look at all that because then it does give each day this sort of like unique marker, if you will. So, but back to Sunday. So we're going to have that moon conjunct Chiron. That's going to be like earlier in the day, of course, right? Yeah, it's going to be like much earlier in the day. So like 7:46 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right? So it will, of course, make the quincunx. Well, no, excuse me. It will actually make the trine over to Venus at 24 degrees. Come in the afternoon, 4:46 or so. It's going to make that aspect. This will be a nice aspect too. Definitely going to. I think this is going to be a reinvigorating kind of moon, but it depends upon how the conjunction to Chiron goes because we can get to that where we may feel inspired and then we will be reminded of a wounding when it comes to, how we exalt ourselves. The Chiron is going to be at 19 degrees. This is the degree that the sun is exalted at, right? In Aries. The sun's already exalted in Aries. Being that it's at 19 degrees, it's 1 plus 9, which reduces back to a 1, which is the sun. So that's why that conjunction is very powerful. So when it comes to that, how we feel about the way that we exalt ourselves, how we feel about the way that we shine our light and radiate that love that we have, based off of that, was going to pretty much determine, kind of like the whole trine with Venus. It's like and embracing your wounding, embracing the mistakes that you've made, embracing the times you tripped and fell, embracing the fact that you may have fallen 7 times and you got up 8, embracing those different things. If you embrace them, then this trine of Venus is going to be like, even though I may not feel the most beautiful right now, even though my hair may be a little bit of a mess right now, even if like my belt broke today, right? And like fortunately, I had another belt, but it was like a weird, it was like one of those like this. It's like it kind of clipped in, and like a screw popped off. A screw popped off. I could have taken it to the route. Like, oh crap, I'm fat and I broke this belt. But that's actually not really what happened. I was watching a dish and it just popped. It was done. It was done. You know what I mean? So it's like things like that can happen. You know what I'm saying? So like, even though weird things like that may happen, do you still believe in yourself? Do you still believe in the power of your creativity and the power of your spirit and just the power of your love that you bring to this world? Do you believe in it? Do you believe in yourself? Do you value yourself? Do you value that energy? Do you value that love? So this is going to be especially being at 24 degrees, 2 plus 4 is 6, which is the number of Venus. It is the number, that in numerology. So it's definitely going to be a very moment like, well, do we receive ourselves in this moment, despite all this stuff, despite all the Chiron stuff, right? Despite all the things that are happening, despite all of the weird intricacies and all the weird quirks that we have, do we still embrace ourselves? And do we have the courage to work on ourselves, to grow, to evolve, but do we still embrace ourselves? You have to ask yourself. Then, of course, we get the moon conjuncting the north node, 27 degrees, coming towards the end of the day. It'll be exact at 10:46 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It'll be exact with the moon conjuncting that north node and opposing the south node, joining up with the square to Pluto. And this is going to be definitely a bit of a firecracker kind of energy, right? Where it's like, it can be like sort of like the message that we receive was like, all right, this is what you need to do, right? This is definitely going to be a very destined moment. You know what I'm saying? The whole, honestly, Sunday in general is just kind of a day of destiny in general. It's going to be this day, where I feel like a lot of people are going to be sort of given they're going to be sort of like given like their tasks, their like legendary goals. They're going to be given, it's like, all right, this is what we want you to set out and accomplish. People are going to be given that for this. And of course, we were dealing with the square to Pluto, so it's going to feel a little bit weird. And not only that, but since it is in Aries, we're going to realize that the journey may be a little bit of a journey of solitude. You know what I mean? Not that people won't be involved, but it is a more self journey. It's more of an internal journey, right? And of course, at the South Node in Libra, we had to not make sure that we're not getting too caught up on trying to be overly diplomatic and overly trying to just keep the peace just because we don't want to ruffle any feathers and stuff. Because you may realize that you embarking on this path, it will ruffle some feathers, and maybe this is when you realize that you don't still don't be rude or mean to people, but you don't necessarily have to just be politically correct either. You just tell the truth, be honest. There can be some fears that come up about that because we know that everything is transforming and changing, So that's the thing. You want to kind of be careful of you also want to be careful of overdoing it as well and going way overboard, maybe giving yourself too much, being too fired up because you don't want to burn yourself up to a crisp either. You don't want to go do that. So this is trying to find that balance too. Even though the South Node is here, we're still trying to find some balance when it comes to that energy. It's in many ways you do kind of have to go through the South Node to get to the North Node. And especially when the energies first shift, generally people are going through the South Node first before they go to the North Node. After the nodes spend a little bit more time in the signs, I would say definitely when it gets to the halfway part, it's definitely a lot easier to go towards the North Node instead of the South Node. But generally, you kind of have to go through the South Node. And this is all about taking inspired action because it's 2 plus 7, which is 9. And 9 is Mars energy, right? And Neptune is also, so there's a harmonic of 27, 27, 27, 27. There's a harmonic energy of the 9 energy and the 9 numerology vibration. So there's definitely going to be this element. It's well, we wanted to definitely take some inspired action towards a goal or something. And yeah, maybe we are worried about how it may be perceived. Maybe we are worried if people will actually love what we do and love us and whether or not we'll be accepted. And maybe it goes against the grain a little bit, and maybe we realize that it's some of you guys are looking for what you're going to do in life, and the current society isn't necessarily fully set up for you to move 100% into what you were meant to do, because it needs to transform, and you're experiencing frustrations because you want to do this thing, but society isn't necessarily 100% conducive for it, and that's okay, so you're experiencing that frustration. It's how come I can't do this thing? This is what I really want to do. This is my heart. This is where my passion is. But I feel like I failed at this thing several times, but I always keep coming back to it. Why do I keep coming back to it? It's something that I have to let go of. No, you will know when Venus and Leo retrograde is helping with a lot of that stuff, as far as learning what to let go of and stuff. Now that we've been in this retrograde for some time, it's going to start to get a little bit easier. I will say that's going to start to get a little bit easier. Still going to be challenging, but it's going to start to get a little bit easier, especially when it comes to relationships. If crazy, weird relationships stuff didn't happen within the first 10 days of this Venus retrograde, then you're probably fine. You know what I mean? You're probably fine. But you had to make it through those first 10 days, if you will. By this time, you've been through those first 10 days. So that's kind of the nice thing about it, right? So you absolutely, can still do that thing and live that life, those passions, and bring that creativity forward and that expression and do that thing. You absolutely can do it. And there are ways to start integrating that into your life so you can do that more full time, if you will. But, it's not going to look exactly the way that you want it to look right now because the world is changing. The world's going to look way different in 5 years. It's going to look way different in 2 years, but it's going to look way different in 5 years. So don't freak out. Don't stress yourself out too much if it's not going exactly the way you want it to, but if it's something that resonates, resonates in your heart, it's true to you, and it's something that that you want to pursue, go for it. Integrate it into your life any way that you can, and take peace with that, accept that, find the gratitude in that, and look for the gratitude in everyday life. Look for the things to be happy about. So what? Maybe you are working at a job that you don't necessarily like, and maybe you're wanting to transition out of there. Do you have to put in your 2 weeks notice right now? I mean, you can, do you have to quit on the spot? You can if you want to. I'm not going to tell you what and what not to do. I'm just saying that you can still smile and enjoy your time there while you're still there. You can still do that. Or if it's like a relationship, if you feel like the relationship is kind of changing, or maybe you're breaking up with someone, maybe you can still find a way to still appreciate that person. Maybe find one little thing. But I know everyone's situation is different. Some of y'all are partnered up with some crazy ass fucking people, right? So relationships are mirrors, though. So that's the other part about it. No one's talking about that. Relationships are in fact mirrors. So, whatever it is, I'm really feel like this is a weekend that is going to encourage you to not give up, even when things get tough, even when things get rough. We got to remember that Aries is still the sign of war, right? Aries is the god of war, so it's not going to necessarily be easy. And you know, it's the first time that we have Moon on Chiron with the North Node in Aries since the late 60s. So, you know, this is the energy that a lot of you guys haven't ever experienced. And then some of you guys are probably really young when you experienced it too. So that's the thing about this. It's going to be a new energy. It should be inspiring. It should be motivating. But it's also going to be like, yeah, it's not always going to be easy. It's going to be tough. There will be challenges, but you can absolutely do it and you can overcome it. So, yeah. Oh yeah, let me go ahead and draw a card. I think last time I forgot to draw cards for like a video I did somewhere recently where I forgot to draw cards. So I go ahead and do that. So all right, let's see what we got going on. All right, so this card has been coming up so much lately. I have the Five of Wands in reverse, though. Five of Wands in reverse. Then I also have the Three of Pentacles in reverse, and then that's followed by the Eight of Wands in reverse, or not reverse, but the Eight of Wands upright. Yeah, you are wanting things to move faster than they actually are. And this Five of Wands in reverse is sort of like, it's like an internal fight. It's an internal turmoil. But it's a little bit more on the petty side. The Three of Pentacles, there's definitely work to be done. And you're finding your tribe, the people that you'll work with to build this dream, because teamwork does make the dream work. Just don't get too much into your head about how it looks and wanting it to move like much faster than it actually is moving. So just like, I know this is going to be a weekend that is going to inspire us and motivate us and want us to kind of do things. There could be some emotional frustration when it comes to things not moving as fast as necessary that we wanted to. But a lot of this turmoil is going to be more inward. So just do what you can to kind of calm that inner turmoil. This will be a good weekend to do some grounding work, I would definitely say, especially as the moon's about to come into Taurus. But with the moon coming over Chiron with the North Node there, that's definitely going to be a triggering moment on Sunday. So definitely give yourself time to like kind of ground, meditate and stuff this weekend, kind of calming that inner turmoil, because you are building something beautiful. It's just not necessarily happening at the speed at which you want it to. Bottom of the deck, I do have the Eight of Swords. What's interesting about this one is that there's two people instead of one, but there's no blindfold on them either. So it kind of takes on a different kind of quality. You're like, they're standing in the puddle, they're standing in the mud, but at least they don't have the blindfold on. So you can actually see your way out of this. And I think maybe you're just choosing to kind of stay in the situation, but you can actually see your way out of this sort of like fog. I think really what this comes down to is that you're just like, oh, well, things went wrong in the past, and things aren't happening exactly the way I want to. But there is like a nice window of opportunity here. There's like some sparks here. There's some like beauty here, but it's not happening exactly the way I want to. And it's kind of triggering some stuff from the past when I fell down and I failed, and I just don't know if I have the strength to do it. Well, except the blindfolds are off. You can see where you are. You've been here before in many ways. said things rhyme. So it's going to be this elements like move out of that puddle, step out of the mud, unless you're using the mud to ground. But but like step like step out of the mud. You know, you don't have to sit there anymore. Like at least you can see. At least with this situation, you can kind of see a potential way out or a potential solution. You know what I'm saying? So there's some vision here that comes, where you can actually like see your way through this. You know, so it's not like any type of like fears or doubts that come up. It's not like there's not like a solution already there or like a potential way out of the situation. It's already there. You just don't get too much into your head and feed too much to the negativity, if you will. You know what I mean? So I don't think it's per se bad to have negative thoughts. I think it's bad when we let them fester and continue to proliferate and we don't do anything else to check those negative thoughts. Then that's when they become dangerous. So I have the bear. Nurture creativity and return to the sweetness of life. Yep, this is going to be a great weekend for that. Nurture your creativity. Do something that you enjoy. Do something that you love. Something that you're passionate about. Ground yourself in that. And yeah, maybe you're not making $1 million doing that thing. If you want to turn it into something that's more of a career or whatever it is, but just nurture your creativity this weekend. Nurture it in any way that you can. Do your best to calm that inner turmoil. Do a bit of a grounding work, right? Realize that you are building something beautiful and that you are finding your tribe, you know what I mean? And while things aren't moving as fast as you want to, they're moving at the speed that you need to. And probably, more than likely, things will probably happen a lot faster than you think. We just have to trust the divine timing of the universe. But the good thing is that the blindfold is off. So you can accurately move your way out of a situation that may feel sticky, that may feel like you have like a cloud over your head, that may feel daunting. You have the power and the wherewithal to at least move out of the situation. So take solace in that fact. And have a fantastic weekend. So that's going to do it for your weekend astrology forecast. I hope that you all enjoyed it. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe. I definitely appreciate it. If you'd like a personal reading with me, beloved, you can follow the link in the description below to my website, jphoenix.com. And as always, y'all take care, stay blessed, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.